Can you make your way to your seats, please? Because we're on a very, very tight programme. There's a lot to pack in, lots of interesting speakers, and there's plenty of time for networking and mingling. So if you can come in out of the clouds where it's threatening to rain, take a seat, make yourself comfortable. We'll get underway very shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Radix Big Tent Festival 2022. It's almost a year since our last festival in Coventry, which many of you attended, and if a week is a long time in politics, then the past year is several lifetimes. These are, for sure, tumultuous, uncertain times. The war in Ukraine, climate crisis, disruption to the global economy, fears about food and fuel supplies, labour shortages, and of course the aftermath of COVID. It's a time when people feel powerless, helpless, and anxious. Politicians don't always rise to the challenges. Politicians can't always rise to the challenges, but people do. And we saw that during the pandemic as communities came together to support each other. The huge, generous support towards the people of Ukraine, growing awareness and commitment to do something about climate crisis, and a desire to do things better. Radix Big Tent brings together people from across the political spectrum, people outside the political spectrum. And I'm fair to say, I hope it is, that all of us are here because we want to be part of a better future, to rise to those challenges in our towns and cities, in our workplaces, our schools, public institutions, health services, and cultural hubs. So over the next 2 days, and I hope you're staying for the 2 days, you'll find stimulating and thought-provoking conversations from politicians of all parties, academics, activists, business and community leaders. You'll exchange and challenge ideas without the partisanship that all too often poisons our decision-making. So a reminder of the theme of today's session, today's summit, towards better cities, city-led regeneration. So where better than Bristol, the first British city to be named European Green Capital. It has a rich maritime history, and the former city centre port is now a cultural hub. It's been innovative in providing affordable housing, developed strategies for engaging disadvantaged and excluded communities. It has outstanding science and research driven by private entrepreneurship and public institutions. And the economy here thrives on the creative media, technology, electronics and aerospace sectors. But of course, as with everywhere else, it faces challenges of inequality and infrastructure. You may not know that Condé Nast, the global travel Bible, designated Bristol the best city in England to take a short break. And that's without the Radix Big Tent Festival in residence. So it's my great pleasure to first of all introduce you to Marvin Reece, the Mayor of Bristol. Marvin. Before we start, is there something you want to share with us?
Yeah, a bit of good news for the city.
Go on.
So,
it's a secret.
It's not anymore. It was embargoed, but actually someone broke the embargo, but anyway. Competition for headlines. On the 15th of September 2017, a group of us got together, myself, universities, or University of Bristol, Homes England, Network Rail, and it was to pick up on that long-standing challenge of how we ceased to be the only major city without a modern train station. And we've worked on this for 5 years, and we have Neil O'Brien here today as well, and as of today, we've just secured the 95 million that we need to revamp our train station. Yeah. And dare I say, I just think the way we've gone about it has been the right way. We've worked cross-party from back even when Tim Bowles was Metro Mayor, myself and Tim worked together. We had local authority, combined authority, we had the universities, we had Department for Transport, Homes England, Network Rail. We had the heritage organisations coming in very early. So we knew that we needed to have, well, I think leadership is a collective act. I may say more about that later, but we had collective leadership around a shared vision of the train station. I know Toby Savage is here as well, leader of South Gloucestershire Council as well. And again, with the support of our neighbours in Baines and South Gloucestershire and North Somerset as well, we've got this done, and it's going to be a real linchpin in the wider regeneration of the Temple Quarter area, which is a huge opportunity for Bristol and the west of England.
Marvin, thank you, and we are delighted to be in Bristol. It's an absolute pleasure. As many of you know, Radix Big Tent is the result of the merger last year of the radical centre think tank Radix UK and the political convening charity Big Tent, which was co-founded by George Freeman MP and Baroness Sally Morgan. And it's my pleasure now to introduce George.
Joe, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to be very short with 3 messages. The first is why we set up Radix Big Tent. What was the original vision? And I won summer of 2017, the Brexit vote. And it was clear to me and a group of us that we desperately needed, in the spirit of more in common than divides us, to create a forum where people could come together from all sides of every debate and debate in courtesy, debate in civil surroundings, debate not in the partisan and divisive atmosphere of Parliament or party conferences, but in a festival atmosphere that celebrates what we have in common more than that which divides us. So the Big Tent is first and foremost an attempt to create a space where people from different traditions, proud of their traditions, can come together and debate the big issues of the day. Second point, this is our 4th festival. Our first was in Reading. Where better to take a nascent festival to prove the model? And we had £30,000, 3 tents and 300 people. And the test was, do people like this? And our aim was to be the opposite of a party conference. Many of you dark, hot rooms with curly sandwiches, people locked in, listening to a minister giving a speech that he's only just had a chance to read. We wanted this to be the opposite, a place where the speaker has to earn the right to be heard, where people can drift in and drift out, where people can mingle, where there's art and culture and music, where we celebrate the cultural heritage of this country and the place in which we are. So we were in Reading and people loved it. As they left, we asked them, like innocent drinks, do you think we should do this again or not? And everyone said, yes, do it again, make it bigger. So then we went to Cambridge to celebrate the spirit of science, of entrepreneurship, of artistic endeavour, and to insist that innovation is actually a cultural attribute. It's about imagining a better future for tomorrow. 1,200 people, 9 tents. We had an amazing festival. But we also added a feature, the Leaders Summit, the day before, which is what this is. To gather exclusively by invitation the leaders of the place in which we're meeting, to see whether we can't hammer out some radical ideas for how we could turbocharge local leadership. Then we went to Mudshoot in the lee of the City of London in the height of the anti-capitalist debate to ask, is the problem in this country that capitalism is too powerful, or is it that it's too remote, it's too isolated, it's cut off, that we don't have enough free market entrepreneurial energy and drive all around the country? And there was nowhere better to have that debate in the original site of the anti-capitalist, anti-London Docklands development hippie commune that's now become one of London's finest green parks. We had a brilliant festival. And then last year, we went to Coventry and to highlight the role of cities in driving change in this country. Coventry, a city that's been at the heart of the Industrial Revolution, and now again is leading the Green Revolution. And we discovered something very interesting in Coventry. An underground, a hitherto almost invisible group of young, teenage, often black and minority ethnic digital entrepreneurs who are not in the glare of public policy, and I'm delighted to see some of them here today. And part of what we discovered in Coventry is, in a place, there are lots of clusters, lots of communities, and they all need to have a voice in regeneration. So why are we here today, Marvin, in Bristol? Well, for 3 reasons. One, nobody better embodies the Big Tent commitment to decentralised politics, to radical leadership, to mayoral leadership in a Big Tent tradition than Marvin Reece. Yes, I think you stood as a... I think you stood as a Labour MP, as a Labour mayor. But if the Big Tent politics means anything, it means respecting the traditions of people who may have different views on some subjects, but we share a lot in common. And when I first met Marvin, it was clear to me that We share an awful lot, and the Big Tent values are your values. Secondly, because Bristol, under your leadership, has positioned itself as a city wanting to lead the UK regeneration and renewal, the green revolution, the urban transport revolution, to insist that the city is part of a broader hinterland. And thirdly, to pick up that theme from Coventry of inclusive growth. And Marvin, as a kid from the back streets of Mayor who's risen to great heights, Mayor, but also a very distinguished career, you embody, but also your mission here as Mayor has been to make sure that everybody has a chance to share and that the growth of the city creates opportunity for people all across this region. So today is our leadership summit. You're here as leaders. You're all here for a reason, to help shape this afternoon some bold and radical thinking outside the confines of traditional politics. Tomorrow is a festival where the public come in and enjoy the spirit of that mission. So welcome, thank you for coming, thank you for supporting us. If you're not members of the Big Tent, please come and join us and enjoy this afternoon and have a wonderful day tomorrow. Marvin, thank you for having us.
Thank you both very much. Marvin, because he had that rather exciting announcement to make, which is very exciting, he didn't get to talk quite a lot about Bristol, but he will be back at 5 o'clock on a panel with city leaders talking about regeneration. And just a reminder that if you are on social media, please continue the discussion, promote what's going on. It's #BigTentBristol22. And you can follow us at Big Tent Ideas and at radix_.uk. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce Neil O'Brien, who is an MP and the Minister for Levelling Up, who has been in Bristol and is going on a tour with Marvin. And I know you're up against the clock, so come up here, Neil, and come and have a chat with us. And sit there. So, if there is time, and this is not a promise, if there is time, we might take some questions. But I would urge you, please, to think of them in your head, keep them concise, and get your hands ready if there's time, and then we'll send somebody around with a microphone. But first of all, so how can cities lead regeneration? Let's talk about levelling up. It's aspirational. Can it be realised?
So there are a huge number of exciting things happening, not just in this city, but in all the cities, I think, across the UK at the moment. And the context is kind of once in every 150 years transformation of our cities, which is driven by the fact that all of us in this places where we live again changed our cities and towns in a way that we're remembered for a very long time.
Because nobody could have predicted what has happened over the last 2 years with such rapidity that has decimated our high streets. We all practices as well. People perhaps shopping more locally. We've also got a huge housing crisis. All of these things need to be joined up, and we know that many people have trodden this path before. Harold Wilson, Michael Heseltine, Tony Blair, George Osborne. What's different this time?
Yeah, no, none of these issues are new. The pace of the internet and the effects of the pandemic have just made them even sharper than ever. A lot of these things have been worked on, and there have been success from previous governments as well. I've been previously accused of being a John Prescott tribute act.
I didn't think so.
So I was thinking.
I'll take my glasses off, but no.
He was a Michael Heseltine tribute act. Who is, many governments have worked on these issues, and what is new in what we're doing at the moment? I mean, it's building on a few different things that have happened in the past. So, the first big thing we're doing is trying to change the governance and the leadership of our big cities. So, when we came in to government, the only city in England that had a devolution deal was London, which was great for London. It was fantastic for them to have a mayor, famous mayor going around the world, drumming up investment, powerful inward investment agency. But the problem was that none of the other big cities had the same thing. They didn't have that visible leader. They didn't have those kind of big, powerful city governments that could drive forward those transport projects, those big regeneration projects. And so I think the kind of mayoral devolution revolution that's happened in Manchester and Liverpool, South Yorkshire, West Yorkshire and the west of England has been a big change in our national life, and we're now taking that on to more places.
But you know that Bristol has voted to not have
so
a mayor.
I saw that, and it's funny because it's just sort of coming and going. Croydon, they've just done the opposite. They've voted to go from committees to having a mayor. And in every place, they have to, for each local authority, they've got to, pick what's right for them. But I do think the kind of metro mayor model, and of course West of England's still got a metro mayor, Dan Norris, is a good model, and it's enabled us to work more closely to identify those opportunities and to bring together all the different arms of central government to back the things that local leaders want to do. Marvin mentioned the thing I'm here to see and to announce about the 95 million investment in Temple Meads, which has been a lot of work from a lot of local partners and a lot of huckling of Network Rail and others as well to bring together all those different parties to make something big happen.
But as he was just saying, Neil, I mean, part of the key to that's being unlocked with the funding was the transport, was opening up the rail. We saw that in London with the redevelopment of King's Cross, St Pancras. Quite often it's one thing, and very shortly we'll be talking about Bilbao, which of course, you know, was completely and utterly regenerated because of the Guggenheim Museum. So there's quite often one thing that is the key to unlocking it. But we're in a crisis, you know, financially it's a problem. The relationship between local and central government is not always easy because it always comes down to money. And it is probably fair to say that, you know, if you're a local authority with the resources to write a good bid, you've got more chance of getting money than the other people. Yeah,
no, all those are great questions. So there's several things to say. So firstly, it's about having the powers for local leaders to do the things they need to do. So we're just in the process of passing the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill, which will give local leaders, be they in local councils or a long-term vision that is specific to the future of their community. And some of the things I think we're doing here in this city are a reflection of what we are trying to achieve.
One last